So Jen and Mike, we asked if it should be Jennifer and Michael, and we got the answer, so it's Jen and Mike. So I'm really excited to have the two of you here. I resonate with what Jim was saying about being leaders and being fearless leaders to take the step into the unknown. And what we wanted to share some of your experience and thought and direction with this audience. And so we really appreciate you both joining us for this. So, some of us are not from the United States. I think anyone American probably knows the name HCA Healthcare and probably knows a little bit about being one of the largest and most leading healthcare organizations in the United States. But there are people here from around the world. So Jen, maybe we could start just by you giving the audience a little bit of an overview of what HCA Healthcare is, what your impact is on the world, what you do, your mission, workforce.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I've worked for HCA for 30 years. So I have, it's near and dear to my heart, mostly because of our mission. It's all about the care and improvement of human life. We're the country's largest healthcare provider, for-profit healthcare provider. We have close to 180 hospitals and over 2,300 care sites across the United States and 20 states. And then we also have a small presence in the UK. And we're responsible for providing 6% of the US healthcare. So when you think about inpatient, we provide about 6% of that across the US. And that is about 35 million patient encounters. So we are very, very committed to the care and improvement of human life. And as you can imagine, that takes a lot of caregivers. We employ close to 300,000 people in HCA Healthcare.
So, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone, even if they're not in healthcare, that healthcare has incredible challenges. Financial challenges, workforce challenges. COVID didn't probably make that any easier, and the aging population and other things. So could you give a little bit of a sense to the audience, particularly those who don't understand the challenges of healthcare, a little bit about what an organization in this industry in general, and particularly of this size and complexity, is dealing with from a human capital perspective?
Sure. So I'll date myself. I already told you I've been with HCA for 30 years. So I joined fresh out of college. I was the HR assistant at the front desk at a hospital. And this was back in the days, I was, covering the front desk. People would come in and apply for jobs, and, we'd take their manual application, we'd photocopy it, we would take photo badges with Polaroid cameras, and we would manually laminate those badges. I'm dating myself. It's like dinosaur ages. But when it comes to pre-employment processing, we really have not advanced that much. So 30 years ago, I remember, getting the employment application, they're going through the interview process, and people are about ready to get offered a job, and you're doing what you do. You're calling different employers, you're trying to verify that they actually work there, you're trying to verify their license certification. So obviously, over the course of time, we found our partner. We've been working with PreCheck for quite some time. But it's still largely a manual process, although we've made some great strides. So I just want to paint a picture of what happened during the pandemic. And part of this is, on us, and a large part of it is just what happened in society. So we were plugging right along. We would typically say 14 days to get somebody onboarded and started to work in HCA Healthcare, which is not our best performance by any means. But so when the pandemic came, as you know, the government shut down elective surgery. So we had a bunch of caregivers that were on the sidelines. And I'm happy to say, I'm going to take it as a small opportunity to just compliment HCA. We paid those caregivers that were on the sidelines. Anybody who was sent home was paid 70% of their base pay while they were not working. We basically provided unemployment for our own, not through the government's system. But what that meant is people were on the sidelines, we did have people working, and then all of a sudden, healthcare started to return. All of a sudden, the floodgates opened and people came back, and I think all of the people that needed elective care that put it on hold were coming back into the healthcare system. And we weren't doing a lot of hiring. We went from 30,000 open positions down to 2,000 open positions during the pandemic. So I had recruiters on the sidelines. Mike wasn't with us at the time, but his now team, they were on the sidelines. So as people that were doing background screening processes and partnership with PreCheck and doing our onboarding, as those people left for whatever reason, we weren't backfilling those jobs. So when we returned to a very active healthcare environment, we had to hire. And as everybody knows, all the employers in the room knows that the labor market just went crazy. Well, we lost a bunch of caregivers during that time as well, because all of a sudden all the agencies came into play. They started paying people $150, $200 an hour to come to New York City to care for COVID patients, and everything it went crazy. So all of a sudden, the floodgates opened and we were having to hire a ton of people. We did not have our team staffed to keep up with the volume. And then on top of it, people that needed to verify people's credentials were not there. We could not get a hold of some of the educational institutions in a timely manner. We couldn't get a hold of other employers to verify their employment in a timely manner. And we were backing up. So we were getting people as cleared as fast as possible, but everybody knows FIFO, first in, first out. We were prioritizing who needed to get their background screenings back based on who was supposed to start quicker, which then again lengthened the time. So during that time period, not for everybody, but because we moved away from FIFO, it was taking us anywhere between 15 to 31 days to verify people. And what does that mean? That means you've got a healthcare system that's trying to open up their doors and fulfill their mission and take care of people that we're not able to get people started quick enough to serve our patient population. So we went down a path of, we hired a management engineer, somebody who I'd worked with for years in my healthcare background, and we partnered with PreCheck, and we did a whole lot of process improvement. And I'm super, super proud of where we are today, because we're now down to about 10 days to get people pre-checked and on board. But all of that was through technology enhancements. That was all through robotic process automation. None of this is what we're talking about here today, which is going to revolutionize what we do. But I mean, the bottom line is it was taking us longer to get caregivers to the bedside, and all the support staff that are needed to make that healthcare ecosystem work, whether it's housekeepers or food service workers, those are very needed people. And taking 27, 28, 30 days to get them started is a crisis in itself.
Right, and that brings us exactly to when we met the first time, about 2 years ago. For some of you may remember, about in April 2021, we had our first coming out party, where we announced Velocity Network in Healthcare, and we had sent, I think the team at CISAV had sent the invitation to HCA, inviting you to join the conference. And I recall, I think it was Zach calling me up, or Dana, and saying, Jen saw the invitation, and she's excited about this, and she would be happy to accept an offer to speak at our conference. And I'd love to hear, this is a new world for us, so for sure for you, this was a completely revolutionized idea. And what did you understand? What excited you about this? What got you to not only speak at our conference, but then lead your team into this journey with us for the last year and a half?
So I would say kudos to Zach from PreCheck, because he was the one working with my team. They had been talking about this for quite some time. My team's like, will you hear them out? Will you give them an opportunity? And I was like, sure. And I think that first presentation, I was like, unbelievable. I mean, this could absolutely revolutionize, background screening, not just for healthcare. I mean, we've got to do this across the entire, whatever you want to call ecosystem. What got me most excited is not only our ability to get people cleared into the bedside quicker, but the candidate experience. So you can imagine, and I talk about it selfishly from the employer perspective, you can imagine, somebody who maybe quits their job and comes to join, for this example, HCA, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting because their background isn't cleared. We haven't been able to get a hold of their employer or verify their education. Meanwhile, they don't have a paycheck coming in because they've already quit their other job. So then you've got people on the sidelines that are sitting there for a week or 2 weeks without pay. I mean, it's incredible. So this is an opportunity for us to provide an incredible candidate experience when people are ready to start and can get started without, losing paycheck or maybe even having to go back to unemployment. Just as much as it is for us to get people taking care of our patients.
Right. And then Mike, I know you joined about a year ago?
8 months ago.
8 months
Yep.
ago. But for the last year and a half, and now the team that you lead has really gotten engaged in working with Velocity, but with PreCheck that I've mentioned here, with Infor that are in the room. Infor, say hello. Thank you. And with JobVite, Andrew. Really working, those are your existing vendors and partners. So working with them to really deliver this and develop it and get it out there. So you share a little bit about the journey, the work, how that's been going?
Sure. And a little bit too, my personal journey started with Velocity 4 years ago when Oracle joined the foundation as one of the founding members. So I was actually at Oracle in an HCM transformation role, and we started, working with solution consultants and talking internally about all the art of the possible, right? What could this mean? And so to fast forward 4 years now to sitting at HCA, actually seeing this come to fruition is really exciting. So the journey, just since the beginning of the year, working with PreCheck, with JobVite telemetry, and with Infor, is we have started piloting through the PreCheck process an invitation for new candidates coming in to opt in to download a digital wallet and accept their digital credentials. We've piloted this in our Florida markets, and we have to date over 7,000 new hire candidates that have opted in to learn about the Velocity Network and download their credentials. That next step of actually taking their digital credentials, we've seen about a 7% adoption rate. So of that 7,000 candidates that have opted in, about 500 have actually imported their verified education or their verified work history into their wallet. And so I think that highlights, how do we sell the value proposition? What's in it for a new hire coming into an organization and understanding, getting educated on what is the value of this, both from an internal mobility standpoint as well as having a credential that they can take with them outside of HCA as well. We also just last week went live with telemetry, taking in Velocity credentials as part of our application process. So even further upstream now, being able to start to realize the value of getting those credentials into our system. And that will long-term pay off for us, right? Because we're now able to take, and that's one less background check that we'll have to go through the process, right? When we get that digital credential directly into our system, and then passing that into our Infor system, which is our core HR ERP system. So that's kind of where we're at year to date at this point.
And can you share some of your lessons and your experience from this period? What works, what doesn't, what's been difficult, what's the plans forward?
Well, and I think it is really just that idea of what's in it for a new hire coming into an organization. And it's really a supply and demand problem, right? The demand is we need more employers asking for this information and creating the demand, and then obviously bringing the suppliers, which would either be the notary issuers like a PreCheck, or having the primary issuers themselves, the primary sources that are issuing credentials to be able to load these directly into users' wallets.
There are a few of those here, so that's we'll talk about that in a second. So just by the way, tomorrow morning we have telemetry, Infor, and PreCheck all presenting the flow of what they're doing live at HCA. So you'll get a chance, and Mike will be here too to share his experiences, so you can see what actually the user experiences are for all three of those systems, two that are live and one that is underway. So Jen, where is this going? What's the future? What's the vision? And I've heard you say, this is not just an HCA thing, this is much bigger. So how do you see the next steps and where you'd like this to go?
Well, we need momentum. So, obviously we are trailblazers on this because I'm passionate about where we can go. But until, to Mike's point, until we get other employers, other issuing, credential issuers into the system, we're personally not going to see the value. I keep telling my team, we've got to get this taken off, because when we get to the point, and you and I talked about this last week, Etan, I'm telling my team, hey, look, we're down to 10 days. Our goal is 7 days. And Etan said to me, no, your goal should be 7 minutes. And I shared that with a group of HR leaders when I was traveling last week in South Atlantic, which is one of our divisions, and there was literally like applause. I mean, can you imagine going to 7 minutes that you could get people? I mean, I know that we're a long way away. I mean, we've got to get criminal background into this, but I see the future of this is we've got to help create momentum. We need everybody in this room to help us create momentum. We're doing our part. We're actually going to have a bunch of other healthcare employers in the state of Florida, and now we've decided to actually reach out to all of our educational partners, because you can imagine the healthcare ecosystem. Those healthcare providers or educational institutions need places to do their clinicals. So we host a bunch of different colleges doing their clinical rotations. We're going to get them all on a call. We're going to have Etan and his team participate. We're going to tell them what we're doing. We're going to get them excited about it, because we need them to get on board so that we, HCA, can start seeing the benefit of this as well, which means we're hiring people, we're clearing people, and we're down to minutes instead of days or weeks. So I'm excited about this, and I said to Etan this morning when we were preparing, every time I think about this, I get super excited. The problem is I got 600 things to think about. So I'll think about it, we'll have a call, I'll call my team, I'll say, let's get this scheduled, let's get this on the books, and then 600 other things will happen. So it can't be just, HCA Healthcare. It needs to be everybody in the ecosystem, and we can truly make an impact.
So I think that's a great leeway to ask both of you to, what is your call to action to the people here? Mike, then Jen, to finalize. But there are partners here, existing partners, there are potential partners, there are players in the healthcare ecosystem, there are players in other industries. There's a lot of organizations here relating to education, higher education particularly. So if you have the opportunity to get the right message across, what is that?
Well, I think it starts with education. I think selling that value proposition, creating the ecosystem, providing the supply of credentials, and educating the employees that kind of sit between the supply and demand equation, right? The better educated they are, then the more they start to generate a demand and can take that to the employer side. And so I think that's a big component of the work here, is just getting that message out and getting that education out there around establishing the value of digital credentials.
And Mike, just before I generally pass that, my message, and I hope you feel comfortable with that, is we're ready. HCA is ready. You just turned on telemetry. You're able to accept credentials. Every time we get asked, well, is anyone going? If we start issuing digital credentials, anyone going to be able to use them? Yes, they are, and so it's. It's hopefully for HCA and other large employers to say, we're ready. Are you starting to feed us? WGU, Casey, right? ACRO, are you telling your universities, we're here, the employers are ready for this, and just start feeding us?
And besides on the demand side of asking, we also have Galen College of Nursing. And so we're also a supplier on the other side of that equation as well. And so we've started that work just this year. To have Galen engage with PreCheck and start that process also. So we're kind of eating our own cooking or drinking our own champagne in a way there within our own ecosystem.
Champagne. So I would also just like to mention, I've been talking about from the employer perspective, but other employers, educational institutions, think about the number of calls that they're getting to verify people's credentials. The educational institutions slow down over the summer, so it's harder for employers, but just think about the number of calls that they're getting to issue confirmations of people's education credentials. I mean, this could be life-changing for everybody involved in this. So my ask is, to get energized, to get on board with this. I think about the wave when you're at like a football game or something and somebody starts the wave. It doesn't really matter if just one or two people get up or a small section gets up, but if everybody does it, tell me you don't get goosebumps. It just gives you goosebumps when everybody kind of comes together and you see a whole stadium do the wave. That's what we have to do in this realm.
Great, wonderful. So I know Jen is here for another couple hours, so if you want to do some business and offer credentials at HCA, and Mike is with us for the entire conference. So I encourage everyone who's serving the healthcare industry in one way or another to please have that dialogue. We're proud to have you as partners. Excited that you have taken this leadership role and look forward to just doing great things together. So thank you.
So much.
Great, thanks.